Greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to episode 45 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Verbanis, and as always, I am joined by the best gosh darn co-host out there, Mr. Bob Lucius. Bob? Hey, man, what are you doing? Come over here. I got to talk to you, man.
First of all, I'm blushing. The best gosh darn co-host. I'm glad this is just audio because I'm blushing like a schoolgirl. But the other thing is, you lost me on the hello.
Oh yeah.
All right. What is it?
Instead of having you at hello, I lost you at hello. Is that how it works? You lost me at hello. Well, I will say that is a quote from Dennis Hopper in a 1969 movie you might recognize, Easy Rider.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right. Nice.
Right? Because what are we talking about today?
Rick stepped in the Wayback Machine.
That's true. We're talking about the United States of Captain America #2, and what is this centered around, right? It is a Cap on his motorcycle going across country with friends and trying to find himself. So Easy Rider, man.
Road trip.
Had to go with that. All right.
Yeah. All right. Love it. It's a perennial road trip.
It's almost better when I don't have to explain them, but
it is. But for the slow folk at home like me, it's helpful. It's nice. Yeah. It's good. It's it just shows how much effort you put into planning these.
No, I just picked this up 5 seconds ago, Bob.
No. Don't ruin the magic.
Oh, all right.
Don't do it.
So, Bob, hey, listen, we're excited. We have a guest on the show today, Mr. Joshua VanDine. Josh is a supporter of the show and a longtime member of our Facebook group. Josh, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And actually, in the last episode, which was episode 44, we had our listener Q&A show, and Josh called in and left a message. His question was, if Bob or I could write Captain America, what would it be? So hopefully, we didn't let you down on that one.
I haven't heard the episode yet.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna love it when you do.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Because we love making it.
Yep. All right. So Bob, we've got so much going on right now with the podcast, right? We've got a great guest coming up in 2 episodes, Professor J. Rick Stevens, who wrote one of your favorite books.
Yep. That was I don't know how you felt about it, Rick. I don't know how the listeners will feel about it, but that was like a highlight of my summer right there. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation, and there wasn't a lull in it, right? I mean, we talked for almost 2 hours, and
you talking to the man who's got to edit it. Yeah, Bob. Yeah,
exactly.
I know.
And there were no it's not like there was ever like a lull in the conversation where there was like an awkward silence. It was just a joy. It was a joy for me to have that conversation. It was like we were sitting around a table drinking coffee or having beers or something and just talking about what we love. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it's great when we could talk philosophically about Captain America, and Rick Stevens is a great person to just rap about Cap. We had the pleasure of doing that back on episode 30 with Dr. Mark White, who wrote The Virtues of Captain America. So if you enjoyed that episode, then you're going to love this one. And that comes out episode 47 in 2 weeks. So while we're on the subject of upcoming guests and being excited for them, And also, since we've got Josh on the show, who's one of our patrons, we might as well just let everybody know, because we let them know on the Facebook group. We don't normally like to spill the beans. We like to tell our patrons ahead of time, but one of the next guest after Dr. Stevens is legendary Captain America writer Steve Englehart.
Oh,
That's the reaction we were hoping for, right
Yes.
there.
Yes. So we're extremely excited about having the opportunity to talk with him. So, as one of our thank yous to our patrons, what we do is we give them the opportunity to ask a question to our guests. So, Josh, you've got a week to think about it, because we're talking with him next week, and so shoot us an email, which is capcomicfans@gmail.com, and we will see if we can get that on there. So if you are not a patron and you're listening and you're like, wow, that's a really cool opportunity, it's real simple. Just go to our Anchor page. The link is in any of our podcasts. You can go on our Facebook page, or actually, I'll make it real simple. Just go to our website, CaptainAmericaComicBookFans.com, and there's a link on there for you to sign up to be a patron. If you're at the $4.99 level, like Josh, you get the opportunity to ask a question to our guests. And as we also announced before, we've got this super cool premium that should be in our hands in the next couple of weeks. This really cool "What Would Cap Do" challenge coin. So that's and we'll have more details on that on our website and in the Facebook page as well. So it's just our way of saying thank you to our patrons.
I think that we haven't announced this anywhere else, right? I mean, this challenge coin, you announced it in the last episode, but this is a big deal.
It is. It's a really cool. And we'll have, like I said, on our website and the Facebook page, we'll have images of what the coin looks like. And they're currently being manufactured.
You want to check this out, folks.
Yeah. It's really cool. All right. Well, I can tell from Josh's smile, he's pretty excited.
Yes, I am.
All right. So let's do a quick recap of issue number 1 of the United States of Captain America. We did go through the story, and we had a few, Bob, would it be safe to say that there was a bit of a national reaction to that particular issue?
Yeah, I think I think there's a technical term for it. It's called a kerfluffle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's a national kerfluffle.
How do you spell that, Bob?
It's a KERFLUFFLE, kerfluffle.
I'm not checking that. I'm just going to assume that's right.
Yes, it comes from the German for national controversy. So.
Okay.
I made that part up. So, yeah.
I'm not checking that. But one of the things that I think there was some, unwarranted criticism on it for a couple reasons, right? Because one, it's like, oh, we're replacing Cap and they're finding new characters and they're trying to be PC. I think we agreed that that's not really what this story was about, right? It's about the fact that Captain America, Steve Rogers, really, what's the right word I'm looking for? He inspires others.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think Cantwell, the writer of this story, is doing a good job setting that up, that he inspires people, and they're just regular folk like us that find themselves in a situation and we're like, you know what would Cap do? I'm gonna do what I can to help. So I think there's that one element that was somewhat controversial. And then there's the second element, which was the monologue in the very beginning where Cap talks about the thought of the American dream. And I think what caught headlines was the fact that he mentioned that there's a couple different dreams and one of them's not real, and he talks about Americana, right? And so we had our thoughts on that, and a couple of the thoughts were, one, it's frustrating because we know that a lot of people reacted to that without even having read it, and that's frustrating, right? Is that, listen, there's news media out there. They got to get eyeballs, they got to get clicks, they got to be controversial, they got to do things to sell the papers, as you will. And so they just put this out there with these headlines. They get guys, former actors, to come on and give their views who haven't even read the story, and that's frustrating. And then the second thing was that we felt like some of it was being taken out of context, and not talking about the conclusion of how he talked about his version of the American dream. They only focused on the beginning, and so we felt that was a little unfair, and so we brought that up. Now, having said all that, we also said these are our opinions. This is my opinion. This is Bob's opinion. We understand there's other people's opinions out there, and we respect that. So Josh reached out to me, and he said, I've got some thoughts on this. So that's why we asked him to come on so he could share his thoughts on the monologue.
Well, I think the people that are writing the article is not understanding what Cap is saying. They're saying that Cap is not believing in the American dream anymore. What I think he's saying is he doesn't believe in the American dream as it's been told to the American people. It's not a nice car. It's not a fancy house. The American dream in its essence is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's something that Captain America will never give up on. And I think that's why they show later in the issue the museum pieces, Greensboro, the Rosa Parks dress, and the farmer's jacket. Those are all people that fought for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all people. That's what Cap is fighting for. He's not fighting for people to have fancy houses and cars and all that. So I think if people understand that, then they will see Cap is still always the Cap that he's always been. He's never changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's a good, I think you're spot on there, of course, Joshua. And I don't think we disagree with you. When we talked to Dr. Stevens, and one of the things that we talked about was how this sort of perennially comes up, right? I mean, it came up in the early 70s. It came up after 9/11. It came up with Cap's assassination. It comes up now. And this is this sort of a return to Cap being sort of the focal point of a argument over cultural values. And so it's, as Rick said, it's frustrating sometimes for those of us who are, long Cap fans. We read, very deeply in these issues. We think about them, and folks who perhaps haven't read them and are just kind of commenting, going along with the flow. But sort of for me anyway, I think one of the cool things, sort of the silver lining in these sorts of controversies is how central Captain America can be in this conversation. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, we're talking a national conversation on national media platforms, and they're talking about Captain America. I mean, that's pretty cool, actually, if you think about it. That's how interwoven Cap is in our popular culture, and that, I think, is pretty nifty.
I do have to wonder, though, if the people that are commenting on news channels have actually read a Cap comic.
Oh, ever? Right? Yeah.
those like the rest of us.
Yeah, sure, right. Yeah, I mean that's clear. In some cases that they haven't, but I think it's try to be not being a Pollyanna, but just looking on the bright side. I think it's pretty cool when Cap takes on such a central role in this national conversation. And I think the best we can do is try to look objectively at the comics themselves and at the dialogue, the writing, and try to be upfront in our analysis of what's going on. And hopefully maybe more folks will pick up a book. That's one of the things that comes out of these sorts of controversies is perhaps it drives sales, it drives interest in a character, and we end up getting, more fans. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, always a good thing. And let's hope that's the case. But, I want to say, and I should have pointed this out before, but maybe I did. I don't recall. But, on page 6 of issue 1, during his monologue, Steve says, "I'm pretty easy to repurpose for people's various agendas." Right. And it's kind of like what we're talking about here. Right. I mean, that's what I think certain news outlets, whether they are far left, far right, they have certain agendas. They know who their audience is. And so they're going to paint it a certain way to appeal to their audience. And he's just getting repurposed.
Exactly.
All right. You also said when you reached out to me, Josh, that you said you wanted to explain why you feel conservatives feel the way they do about the beginning monologue. Did you want to touch on that?
I think conservatives feel that way because I think conservatives identify with Cap more. They identify with the fact that he stands for America's principles. And at least if you don't understand the context of the monologue, it would seem like he's giving up on America and he doesn't believe in America anymore. I don't think that's what conservatives would want for anyone. They are fine with criticizing America, but not full on hating America. And I don't think they want Steve Rogers to start hating on America, but just pointing out its flaws. Like they're fine with that.
Right. And then, you had mentioned that you're a conservative. Do you feel that same way, or do you feel different?
After reading the issue, I don't think he's giving up on America. He's saying it could be better. America could be different. It could be available for all people and not just white males or whatnot. It's for everybody, from the poor to the rich, from the born American citizens to the immigrants who come here. I don't think it's right to just put an America in a small, narrow window and leave out the rest of the people. And I think that's what Captain America was saying in that monologue.
Okay.
So I agree with Cap.
Yeah, and that's a good perspective. We appreciate that, and I think Bob and I agree. And I think Cantwell has so far done a good job catching the essence of what we feel Steve Rogers stands for, and that he does stand for all Americans. And
Yes.
So thank you for that perspective. All right, are we ready to get to number 2?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I am.
Like we did on the first one, we're just going to cover the first story because there's 2 stories, right? There's the main story has Steve and Sam on this trek. And then there's the backup story, which basically is, I guess you could say, kind of a bio-history introduction, if you will, of the character that gets introduced in the issue. So we want people to go and buy the comic. Because that way you can appreciate the art and you can appreciate the backstory, the second story, I should say. So we're only going to cover the first story. So on the cover here, we have it's a nighttime cover, and it's Steve in his Captain America uniform, which is not representative of what the interior is supposed to be. But he's in his Captain America uniform on a motorcycle. Next to him is Sam Wilson in his Captain America uniform on a motorcycle. And then on the back of Steve's motorcycle is a young African American lady who has a version of a Captain America suit, and she has a shield, and she's holding it up as they're driving, appears to be on a highway in the middle of night.
Love this cover, Rick. Love it. It almost has a photorealistic feel to the background, with the sort of the sense of speed as they're zipping down the highway. I mean, I love this cover. The more I look at it, the more it appeals to me.
Now I know why it's $4.99.
Right. And
well worth it.
All right. The cover artist is Gerard Perel. Mm-hmm. So I'm not familiar with Gerard's work.
Oh, I am. Yeah, he's done
is
some
it
good
Gerald?
stuff.
Gerald?
I think
or Gerard.
I think it's Gerard. But
all right.
Yeah.
I'm murdering that. I apologize, Mr. Perel. All right. So then on the inside, I'm going to read the recap because I just get everybody up to speed on what happened in the last issue. So it says, over the decades, many have taken up the mantle of Captain America, drawing inspiration from Steve Rogers, the original Sentinel of Liberty. Whoever wields the shield carries on the fight for freedom for all. Days before he was due to lend his shield to a museum exhibit, Captain America was ambushed by a super-fast assailant wearing his costume. The imposter stole his shield and used it to attack a train in Queens, endangering hundreds of people before fleeing into the night. Steve and Sam Wilson, a.k.a. the Falcon, were aided in their rescue efforts by an unexpected ally, Aaron Fisher, an unhoused, it's I guess a nice way of saying homeless, teen, and the self-proclaimed Captain America of the railways. Aaron tipped Sam and Steve off to the Captain's Network, a loose collective of people protecting their communities under the mantle of Captain America. Shortly after, Aaron was wounded by a sniper, leading Sam and Steve to believe that someone was targeting the members of the Captain's Network. Sam agreed to suit up again as Captain America alongside Steve, and together they set out to find the shield thief and protect the network. And the name of this first story is I See Great Things in Baseball. And it's written by Christopher Cantwell, penciled and inked by Dale Eaglesham. Colorist is Matt Milla, letterer Joe Caramanga, and we have a trio of editors. So we have Tom Brevoort, who has been the longtime editor of Captain America, and then we have Alana Smith, who is taking over as the new editor of Captain America when the new series comes out, and Martin Biro. All right, so we're in a Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and it's a Steve is still in his. I think this is referred to as his Commander Rogers uniform, the one that has the white star with a circle around it, and then 3 lines on either side of it, white lines on either side of it on his chest. So he's wearing that instead of his Captain America uniform. And he's sitting on a motorcycle, and you hear Cap's inner monologue. And by the way, when we're at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, we're on it looks like the battlefield. Here's a funny story. I was a Cub Scout. This would have been 28 or so when we came and did a tour here. Joshua Chamberlain, Little Round Top, Pickett's Big Screw Up, all that. 6 hours on a rickety school bus. Thing had more in common with the horse-drawn carriages than cars today. I was riveted by all this history. Riveted. But I was also a 10-year-old kid, which means eventually I had to pee. Man, oh man, by the time we were in the peach orchard, I felt like my back teeth were underwater. I was too scared to interrupt the guide, too worried to bother my teacher, who, by the way, was acting like he actually fought in the battle, I finally decided to sneak off. Just, take care of it without anyone noticing. The plan was deal with it, then catch up fast. But just like it was for Johnny Reb, it was a mistake to go into the wheat field. And so we cut back to this description, drawings of, you could tell by the coloring, right? Because it's kind of like an amber type of coloring. And you see a very young Steve Rogers in his Cub Scout uniform sneaking off to go pee. And he looks like he really has to pee, right? And just then, on a horse, came a scout leader. And he says to Steve, "Whoa there, this is hallowed ground, son. Latrines are yonder, boy." And he points in the direction. In caps, Steve says, "So yeah, I almost peed on Gettysburg." Maybe it's not as funny as I remember. I do hope I've paid back that debt. So, Bob, any comments on some of these choice of words here?
It's interesting. I think, you're heading into sort of you're like, well, how does this connect, right? How does this connect to the broader story? And in the next few panels, it sort of makes that connection. But I think it's, I always love any flashbacks to Steve Rogers' youth, I think is worth the price of admission, right? Because that's sort of a window we don't get to see very often. So, but I love, we're seeing sort of a connection being made, which I think is, what Cantwell is really great at. He's telling stories, tying it in with history, and making illustrating a larger point.
I was wondering if any of that meant anything to you, where he says, Joshua Chamberlain, Little Round Top, Pickett's big screw up, all that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That was it, right? That was the Pickett's disastrous charge against Little Round Top and Big Round Top. And that was the turning point in the war,
right?
The Civil War. And I was just reading about it last night. A lot of good men died that day in the wheat field.
Yeah. I did like Cantwell's use of he says, "I felt like my back teeth were underwater." That sounds like a very old expression.
Yeah.
That's something that Steve would say, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's funny. He says, "Yeah, I almost peed on Gettysburg." And then he goes on to reference some ghosts of the past from that battle that you referenced, Bob. Many guys died. And he says, "The damage we did to one another here. Lately, I've been wondering if we ever really came back from it." I think that's it's a one panel, but I think it says so much, right? It's brother against brother, American against American, ideal versus ideal, and in many ways, I think Steve's recognizing that not a lot has changed. And it is, it's a strong comment.
It is.
What do you guys think?
But the thing I just want to point out, it's I think Cantwell's making a point that that war was a fundamental turning point in American history, in American society, American culture, and we think that we fought a civil war, it was brother against brother, all that sort of stuff, and then it ended, right? And then we came back together and we moved on, and we did move on, but things fundamentally shifted, and we're continuing to sort of wrestle with a lot of the issues in that shift. And I think Cantwell makes a very good point that we're still in many ways still struggling with the ghosts of that conflict.
All right. So then the next panel is there's sound. It's like Hyun, and pretty sure that was Sam riding by on his motorcycle. And Steve says, "There he is." So he kickstarts his motorcycle and he goes out onto the dirt road. "There was another Cap attack 2 days ago near Harrisburg. A woman was arrested for busting up a new main line that was going to bring fresh water into town." So he catches up with Sam. "Gotta admit, Still think you wear it best, Sam. Yeah, 2 caps are always better than 1. I'm not so sure about it this time. You said you were bringing a new shield. I did. It's just, well, I was wondering if we should ditch the uniforms entirely with all this imposter crud. No way. When we stop this nonsense, we do it as Captain America, to remind people what we're really about. This woman, Michelle Wright, they're charging her with domestic terrorism. And yet she was dressed like you, kind of ironic. Not really, since I've also been charged with domestic terrorism in the past. But she also calls herself Captain America. Really makes me feel weird. That also what you say when I'm not in the room? You don't want to hear the things I say about you when you're not in the room. So he picks up the phone and he shows an image of Michelle Wright. It's her police image. She definitely has more in common with that kid Aaron from the train than us or your lookalike. You think she's part of the captain's network? Likely. I also want to know what really happened and why she's still alive. Maybe that assassin lady isn't out to kill these folks. Just set them up. Hey, how'd you even get your bike out here? This is as close as the park ranger would let me get. I got a special in with the park rangers. Of course you do. So they take off on their motorcycles. That reminds me, no hot riding back there. People are already more suspicious of Captain America than they should be. You mean like this? And Sam pops a wheelie. Yep, I think that's a textbook example. Thank you. In addition to talking to Michelle, I want to get a look at the busted pipeline, see how it was damaged. What if the local cops won't let us talk to her? I don't know. Maybe then we break some rules. And here you had me worried about hot rodding. So they drive off on their motorcycles, and a few hours later, they're at the scene. And it's a town that it's a huge cave-in on a road. And there's a pipe that's underneath that is gushing out water, and it's going into the rest of the town. It's kind of flooding the town. Good gosh, I didn't realize it was this bad. So many blocks are flooded. Dozens are going to be temporarily homeless because of this. And then there's an older guy with red hair comes up, and a African American lady. What are you doing here? We've had about all that stars and stripes crap we can take. Sorry, we just want to help. Go ahead. We could use it. You know they're trying to pin that on our Michelle, but she would never. Did you really see who did this? 2 days ago, I heard fighting had to be that woman causing problems. Harold, Michelle's the reason the water's coming out of your tub isn't the color of pitch. She's a pride and joy in this community. We might be in serious trouble here, but she does everything she can. I'm tired of Michelle's activism. It's just vigilante crime fighting. Oh, please, Harold, go back to your matlock. Sam, can you come down here? Bring your shield? And they're underneath where the pipe was. This had to be our speedy cap imposter. Rapid hits made with my shield. Not Michelle Wright. Lady says Michelle's all about cleaning up water. She cares about this pipe. Then our bad guys knew how to draw her out. Where did you get this shield? Misty Knight made it for me. Anyway, I just dug the look, you know. And it's an interesting look to the Captain America shield that Sam has. It's all black, has a white center star. But then there's these, looks like 4 or 5 gray lines that are pointing towards the middle of the star. Did you seriously not have any extras lying around? Extra what? AAA batteries and flour tortillas. Shield, Steve. Oh, no, I'm using something Tony gave me. It's all I had on hand. It looks like if your shield were a beer logo hanging on the wall of a bar. Thanks. Really do so much for my self-confidence. And it is. It's one of those, what'd you call these shields?
Well, these energy shields, right?
Yeah.
This harkens way back.
Sure does. I don't get it. Which part? All of it. The feds still want to question our guy Aaron about the train crash. Even though I vouch for him, they still think he's involved. Likewise, Michelle's been charged for destroying the pipe. But our cap hunter took a shot at Aaron. She wanted him dead. Yeah. Then she let Michelle live and get arrested. The only thing I'm really clear on is they want the country to hate anyone calling themselves Captain America. And then just then, speeding in between the two of them through the water really, really fast is the imposter Cap with the shield. And he says, that's the idea. And that just hate's going to keep growing and growing and growing. And he comes back and he hits Steve with the shield real fast. Pretty brave, thinking you could take on the two of us alone when all you've got is fancy footwork. And this, and he hits him with the shield. Don't forget this. This was a really great gift you got me. Thanks, Cap. And he actually hits him in the back of the neck and knocks him down. But just as he was doing that, Sam comes up and takes the shield from him. Damn, your mouth moves as fast as the rest of you. But just then, he gets shot from behind, going through his right shoulder. And it clearly goes right through. And there's the woman that we saw in last issue with the long ponytail and the mask. So you can't see who she is, but she does have a red, white, and blue mask on, stripes, and then, so it's patterned after the American flag. And she's aiming a pistol. The next shot severs your spinal cord between the C1 and C2 vertebrae. And Cap is kind of talking to himself as his energy shield's sparking out. Hey, Tony, did it ever occur to you an electric shield might need to be waterproof? And she aims the pistol at Cap. Halt! Don't move! Just 1 second, for crying out loud, and he throws a piece of lumber from the water and knocks the gun out of her hand. And he goes over to Sam. Sam, are you all right? What the hell are these creeps still doing here 2 days later? And the speedster grabs the shield and picks her up and runs away. And she says, change of plans. We will focus on the woman. So a little later, they're at the initial woman's house, the one who was protecting Michelle or going to bat for her. And she's bandaging up Sam. I don't think they meant to let Michelle get away. The policeman must have gotten here to her first. You boys better make sure nothing happens to her. I won't, ma'am. Not on my watch. You think they want her dead like they did Aaron? I think they want to destroy Captain America. The people, the name, the symbol, the entire dream. So that night, they're at the police station, and there's Sam and Steve in uniform talking to the police officer behind the counter who's pouring himself a cup of coffee. And he says, I'm sorry, guys. Sheriff said she's off limits. My friend was already shot by the same people who were out to kill Michelle. They're probably on their way here right now. She's a sitting duck here. You're welcome to fill out a report, and we'll look into it ASAP. And Cap says, a report. And Sam just kind of looks up in the air like, oh, jeez. And then here comes the sheriff. So he's white dude, receding hairline, gray temples, black mustache. And he's not buttoned up, right? He looks like he got one little more buttons undone at the top.
He's a bit disheveled, yeah.
Yeah. And the guy's handing him a cup of coffee. And then he goes, more captains. Terrific. Sheriff, boys, hold on. I'm going to be straight with you. Truth is, I don't know who did what to that pipe or why. But the thing is, I don't care. And he points at him. This girl Wright is a thorn in our sides. Never shuts up about the water crisis, stages protests, sit-ins, strikes. Now, we find out she's also been the one gallivanting around the night, cracking skulls in bad parts of town, Frankly, we're done with her. Your Thorne actually tries to make things better. And I said, I don't care. And he kind of dismisses Steve by putting his hand up to him. We're keeping her case simple. And let's face it, she fits the profile. What do you mean fits the profile? And Sam's standing there with his arms crossed. I know what he means. And then the sheriff looks at him and he has kind of a smirk and kind of looks like he's winking, right? He says, the pipe that a lot of important people don't want goes away now. And the police can handle the streets without a loony bird, Captain Amera thug, crawling up their asses. And Sam says, and all it cost was one black woman. Hey, you said it, bud, not me. And he smirks at him. The next page is a huge splash. And it's basically Sam taking the sheriff from one side of the counter, lifting him over the counter and throwing him into the windows and breaking the windows. You mentioned maybe breaking some rules, so I decided we should start now. Probably better treatment than he would have gotten from the shield thief. Feel free to file a report. So they go to the back where Michelle's being held, and she's sitting in a little jail cell. And she says to the guard, sounds like Andy Griffith ran into some trouble out there. You want to check on that, Deputy Fife? Bob, who's she referencing there?
The Andy Griffith Show, man. That's the classic Americana right there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love Barney Fife.
So she's in her costume, uniform, I guess you could say. I'm going to describe it real quick. So she's got, I don't know, I guess you could say a blue leotard on in the bottom half, but only one leg. The other leg is not, with red booties. And then she's got kind of a blue leotard on her torso with a white star, but she's wearing I don't know, like a jacket over top, like a jean jacket. I can't tell. And then she's got looks like a red hood around her neck. And just then, and her shield. Her shield, which is sitting on the counter next to her, and the mask, it is more of the 1940s shield. So it's the circular one, but it has 4 stripes instead of the red, white, red that we're used to seeing. So it's blue, white, red, white. And that was more of like circa 1940s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the guard gets up, pulls out his gun. He says, don't say a word. And then as Steve and Sam come through, he says, freeze. Oh. And he holsters his gun. Cap, she's all yours. I knew this wasn't right. Sorry about your boss. I'm not. He's got a smart mouth and a lot of dumb ideas. You must be Michelle. Funny, they said I couldn't have visitors. We got to get you out of here. Sounds like you guys don't think I get a fair trial. And just then, Steve just rips the door off the hinges, the guard door, the jail cell door. It's more than that. You're in imminent danger. The last time that was true, I tangled with a guy dressed like you. There's not much time. If it's cool with y'all, I'm just going to get out of here on my own. So she grabs her mask and her shield. No offense, but you boys can go ahead with your grand crusade. I've got work to do. That's how the captains do their thing. We fight on the ground, not in the clouds. So they're walking back out to the front, and the sheriff's rubbing his neck. Right. Like you 3 are just going to walk out of here. And Michelle notices something through that broken window, and there's a big pickup truck with headlights coming in. She's like, hold up. Get down. And she actually dives onto the sheriff to knock him down behind a desk. And sure enough, there's a riddle of bullets coming in. Okay, so you guys weren't kidding. And Steve says, stay here. And then on the back of the pickup truck is a huge machine gun by the redheaded woman, masked woman, and she's there firing into, and just bullets are just going. Bob, how's that noise go again?
Oh.
Hey, but and now because there's no, last time you did a ka-ting, but this is not a metal shield, it's an energy shield. So
Yeah.
Bob, what noise are you going to make now? No, it's electric, Bob. Come on.
No, there's no. It doesn't have an electric sound illustrated here. You would think it would, but it doesn't.
All right.
Look, you still see the ka-tings.
I don't think that to be the right sound though, right? I almost expect it to be like a bug zapper.
Yeah,
know?
right.
Like
exactly.
Yes. That kind of thing.
I know. I got to fault Cantwell here. That's all there is to it.
So, it seems like she's out of bullets, and the turret's smoking, and Cap's standing there in the headlights. He says, "That's it. A few hours ago, you were going to sever my friend's spine, C1 and C2 and whatnot. Come on, I know you got more ammo in there somewhere, more things that go bang. I'm right here. I refuse to make you a martyr, Stephen Rogers. Nothing unifies a people and a country more than a martyr. Then why have the motor mouth in my duds take my shield? Why target these other captains? It's your symbol that will be broken. In this group of nobodies with tin shields, paltry stripes, faded stars, no one knows them or trusts them. They're trash. The tools we'll use to tarnish your name before I kill them. Yeah, well, Michelle's walking out of here with us tonight, safe and sound, unless you want to go another few rounds." And then the gun switches over to a flamethrower. So Cap gets his shield back up. And Cap makes it funny, Bob.
He does.
He says, "And here I didn't bring anything to barbecue." And then she says, "Drive!" And they hurry away. And Steve's a little bit on fire here. And one of the policemen, the guard, the one who holstered his gun, came up with a blanket to put Steve out. Lady's got a Jerry accent. They want to take out the captains. We got to stop this. Listen, I'm not on board with the whole we thing. I thought you called yourself Captain America. So did Isaiah Bradley. And look how they all treated him. Hey now. The captains take the idea of you and make it real for the people you don't have time to think about. That's what Isaiah did. And that's what I do. We don't ignore anybody. Look, it's cool. You got Avengers and space aliens and Baron Zemo and that acrobat guy with the big mustache and stuff. But we've got poison water, street crime, inequalities of every kind. And as you just saw, the more than occasional crooked cop. But what about these people who are after you? They want to murder you all. Don't get me wrong. The captains believe in you. I do too. But we can't walk away from those we protect, not for a second. Thanks for the save. And if you see Aaron again, say hi for me. He's a good kid. So she walks away. So Sam and Steve are also heading to their motorcycles. And Sam reacts to what she says, and he says, "Okay, then. She's got a point, Sam. Thanks for the help back there, fellas. Sheriff still wants to talk to you." "Nope, we're busy." "Tonight's going to bring heat on us, Steve. Doesn't matter how true blue cap we are. Something tells me those wild goose chase across the country is going to be educational. Maybe we both could use a little schooling." So then we cut the last 4 panels here on this last page, and it's the guy in Cap's uniform with his mask off, and he's driving in the passenger seat, taking off her mask, and she says to him, "Do not speak again of assignment should they figure out your speed demon. The mission could be compromised." "Come on, Sin. What's the harm in... I see great things in baseball, James." "Yes, Commander Schmidt. No captain, no America. Conquer the divided. So says Krieger Frau. Very good, James. Very good. And I told you. Call me superior. To be continued. Dun, dun, dun. All right, Bob.
Well, there you have it. I guess that
We know who the villains are.
we know who the villains are, and that's a nice bridge, right, from Volume 9.
Yes, but let's get to Speed Demon.
Yeah, oh yeah, Speed Demon.
What do you know about Speed Demon? Tell the listeners.
Well, we haven't seen him in a while, man. It's been what, almost 6-7 years since he was, I think, last seen in Superior Foes of Spider-Man. But he got his powers long ago from the Grandmaster, and has been in the Thunderbolts. I think he was in Sinister Six. So it's interesting that Cantwell resurrected this guy for this miniseries. I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have seen that one coming.
Yeah, so Speed Demon, does he have any ties to Captain America?
Oh, I'm sure he does, Rick. I can't think of any off the top of my head. It would have had been back in the 80s or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's known mostly for going up against Spider-Man.
So James Sanders, he was introduced in Avengers 69 as the Wizard.
All right, way back when.
And then Amazing Spider-Man in 1981 as Speed Demon. But yeah, so he was the Wizard from back in Avengers, and so he was part of the Squadron Sinister, who fought the Avengers.
There you go. Yeah, that was a while. That was what, 69, 70 or somewhere around there, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure was.
All right.
So we got him, and then Sin, but she's now referred to as Superior. So for those who didn't read or didn't finish Volume 9, the Coates series, Sin was a major character in that. And there's a little thing about her in Superior at the end. I'm not going to ruin it. Go read it, whatever. But Bob, I seem to recall when we were talking about issue 1 that you said when we were trying to guess who these villains were, you were like, well, I hope it's not Sin. I think she's been a little too much FaceTime recently.
Yeah.
So what's your reaction then? Are you disappointed like you thought you would be?
I am not entirely disappointed, because now I'm starting to see perhaps where they're going to go with sort of the relaunch maybe of the next volume. Mm-hmm. And how this series could potentially serve as a bridge from Volume 9 to the next volume. So I think if they handle it well, I think this could be interesting. And as you said, I don't want to give away anything from the end of Volume 9, but there were some developments at the end of Volume 9 associated with her sort of reclaiming that moniker of Superior that I haven't seen play out yet in issue 1 or 2 of this series, but it will be interesting to see how this unfolds and where it leads. So I'm not disappointed. I'm not as disappointed as I thought I'd be.
Okay. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with her. I haven't read the end of Volume 9, so I don't know what's going on with her, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, you want to check it out. You want to check it out, Joshua, because it's an interesting development.
Marvel Unlimited is a little slow in releasing issues.
Oh yeah.
They have issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So Speed Demon, that's interesting. Wizard.
Didn't he also fight the Hulk?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, he's been part of a lot of different groups, right? Squadron Sinister. Then he was with the Sinister Syndicate, which the Beetle led. He was with part of Thunderbolts, as Bob pointed out. And then back with Squadron Sinister, then the Sinister Six. So yeah, he's been around for a while. In fact, his speed on the power grid is 5. So I don't know how that compares to, I don't know, let's say Quicksilver. I don't think he's probably as fast, but I don't know.
I don't know. Interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I hope Cantwell sort of finds a way to explain to us why he reached in and plucked Speed Demon out of the past to insert into the story as Superior's partner. I hope there's a rationale for that. It's not just sort of
right.
Well, bag.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of liked when writers go back and they take a look at, forgotten characters.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gosh knows J.M. DeMatteis did that a bunch. He brought back Zola. He brought back Zemo. He brought back Primus and Doughboy, and he made them relevant. And so who knows? Maybe Cantwell will do the same thing with Whizzer / Speed Demon. And then there's that little bio page, the Captain's Network, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's the Captain America of Harrisburg, notes compiled by Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson. So this is Michelle Wright. She's age 22. Last known location here, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And she's a local gymnastics star who walked away from a promising athletics career to become an activist and vigilante. Fights with words and enlists to protect her underserved community. Notes from Steve: Michelle's ruffled a lot of feathers by speaking up about infrastructure problems in her hometown and keeping outsiders from harassing local businesses. She's making a lot of powerful enemies. I hope she's got backup to rely on. She needs it, or if she needs it. Note from Sam: I'll be first in line to back her up. Girl's badass, but it's hard to try to bring about a better world all on your own. And then, like I said, there's a backup story, several pages that gets into, basically picks up where the first story left off. So you get to see where she goes from here, but also get a little backstory on her as well. So that, any remaining last thoughts on issue number 2? Josh, did you have anything?
I want to say something about Michelle's little speech to Cap and Falcon towards the middle of the book, where she's talking about Steve Rogers and Falcon. They have the Avengers and Batroc and Zemo, and she was talking about the purpose of the captains. I think that's Cantwell definitively saying what the purpose of the series is. I think he knew that this series might get criticism for being PC or whatever. But I think this is him telling everybody who's wanting to read the series, this is what the series is about. This is showing people who fight things on a more local level than that Steve Rogers or Sam Wilson or anybody might ignore because they're dealing with bigger crises, whatever that may be. I thought that was interesting.
I think that's a good point, Joshua. Look, I got to, I see this a lot, and I'm a vet, right? I spent, a long time in the military, and
it's only 25 years, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good chunk of my adult life, right? And I went to military school before that in order to prep to go into the military. I've spent a good part of my life in the military, and I appreciate when folks come up to me and say, "Hey, thanks for your service." I appreciate that, and we have this sort of cultural thing in America where we like to thank the military. We like to thank police officers, firefighters, and they sort of get the limelight, right? But the military and the police and the firefighters all work institutionally. We have a lot of resources that back us up, right? And we have each of those organizations. They have a mission to perform, right? And we're volunteers, and we do that, and that's great. But I think what Cantwell is pointing out here is something that we don't often think about in American society: is that there are activists and advocates and communities They're not police, they're not military, they're not firefighters, they're not part of any government organization, but they're out there in their communities, and they're every bit as brave, every bit as passionate, and they're out there doing good work in their communities, and they don't get recognized as being heroes. Nobody goes up to the community organizer and says, "Thanks for your service." Nobody, goes up to the PTA, PTA, member and says, "Thanks for your service," or the person out there working in communities with, at-risk youth and says, "Thanks for your service." So those working with homeless, "Thanks for your service." Nobody does that, right? Mm-hmm. And these guys and gals don't have the backup, right? They're not part of the institution. They don't have all that supporting them. They're out there by themselves trying to make the world a better place. And I think this is something that, we can all learn something from, that those folks are every bit as heroes and deserve our gratitude as the big dogs and the big dog organizations doing those sorts of things.
Yeah, well put, Bob. I couldn't have said any better. And I agree with both you and Josh that that's I think an integral part of this story that Cantwell is trying to bring up is that there are these people on the street level that do good things, and they just happen to be, in this case, being inspired by Steve Rogers. And so I think it's an interesting story, and I think like you said, Bob, it's probably a nice bridge to volume 10, and looking forward to seeing where this goes. So all right, well, we'll cover issue 3 of this in 4 weeks. That will be episode number 49, which will come out on I want to say September 15th. So so be sure to check back for that. And then as I mentioned, I don't think I did mention next episode, we talked about episode 47, which we have Dr. Stevens on to talk about his book and Captain America. But next episode, you may want to come back for that one too, because episode 46, we are getting to Captain America Annual number 8 from 1986. This is the Cap versus Wolverine annual, right? With it's Mike Zeck and John Beatty and Joe Rubinstein art, but Mark Grunwald wrote it. And this may be the only time Mike Zeck pencils a Mark Grunwald story. So at least the interiors, he did his covers, for a little while. But anyway, it's a great story. We'll have a lot of fun covering that. So come back next week for that one.
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, it's such a fun story, and the sort of, it reminds me a bit of, but in a different way, sort of how Cap and Sam play off each other in this, the dialogue, and how interesting the dialogue is. There's a lot of that interesting dialogue in annual number 8. So.
Yes, it's true, Bub. All right. Well, for Josh VanDine and Bob Lucius, I'm Rick Verbanis, and you've been listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.